and welcome back to the Healthtech Pigeon podcast brought to you by SomX. My name is Jessica and I am delighted to be joined by two very special guests today. First and foremost, my co-founder and partner in life has returned from paternity leave, so he is making his debut back on the Pigeon podcast. It's nice to be joined by my partner in crime again. But even more importantly, we are also joined by the brilliant Lydia Mapstone from BoobyBiome. Welcome to you both.
Hello, happy to be here.
Happy to have you with us too. James, how is it being back from paternity leave?
I mean, it's great. It's on one hand, I would say to my friends, it's work, so you'd rather not be doing it, of course. However, it's very nice to have the intellectual challenge of running a business again, and there is no greater intellectual challenge than running a business, as I'm sure you're going to tell us as well, Lydia. So, no, it's good to be back.
You mean to say our child is not already entering into entrepreneurial debate with you?
Well, if only. If only.
Okay, give it another 9 months perhaps. Anyway, Lydia, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing? You've been very busy recently and you've just got back from Cologne, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, we've been really good. It's been really busy, but I mean, in the best possible way. We did our first trade show last week. We've obviously announced our fundraise, and we're also building our team. And it feels like we're really accelerating at the moment to get our first product in the market. And it's a really exciting time. Lots of change, but definitely really good change. And it's, yeah, like I say, super exciting.
Brilliant. Well, we're obviously here to talk about the health tech news, and there is only one story in town this week, and that is your raise. It's mega. We are super excited about it, and that is what we want to talk about today. So, without further ado, let's jump into the news. Okay, well, the big news, as I said, in town is that BoobyBiome have announced a super impressive raise. And it's worth saying right at the top of this, James and I are not only really, really excited about it because obviously BoobyBiome are doing some incredibly cool things, but also we have a vested interest because we have made our first angel investment in BoobyBiome. So it's a big moment for us as well, as we've launched SomX Ventures, and honestly, we can think of no one better to start this journey with. So I guess it goes without saying, thank you for having us as a tiny, tiny little part of your epic journey. We are just so thrilled.
Really honoured to have you guys on our cap table, and especially the first ones that you do. I mean, I think, yeah, we're super delighted to have you. We love the podcast and massive fans, and we love the work that you do. So it's great to have investors that really understand what you do and your mission, but also have this brilliant expertise that you have when it comes to communication. So honestly, we couldn't be more delighted. We're even more delighted than you are.
I don't believe that for a second. But awesome. Well, let's hear about the raise then, because it's there's a lot of conversation about raising money and some of those challenges. I think a lot of friction going down that road at the moment. So talk us through your raise. How was that experience for you? How long did it take? Who have you got involved? How much have you raised? Tell us all about it.
Raising money is just so tough. And I think it's super frustrating when you're a founder because you've got this vision and you want to do it and you've got all these plans, and then you just retell the same story, which is your pitch again and again and again and again. And it's a bit like being on 100 first dates and you put your all into every single one. And for us, most time we did get second dates or third dates, but then, so in a way it's even more brutal though when you've already put all that work on and then you get a breakup on the third or fourth date. So yes, it is really tricky. And I think it's picking yourself up at the end and then still going again is half the battle. Obviously pitch decks are super formulaic and it's trying to make yourself stand out from all the other hundreds of pitches that the investors are listening to. I think is a really important part of how you do it, which is why you guys obviously you know all about this. I think you actually looked at our deck and made some improvements, which was super helpful. But yeah, it's really tough. It took a really long time. I think momentum is key. What we probably, if I was to do it again, well, we will be doing it again. I think we would be a bit more organised in trying to squash as many calls in a smaller time frame, because that means that you generate that momentum. But we did get there in the end. It definitely helps that we won, a £1.6 million grant last year. So that was very helpful, because, of course, that massively de-risks any investment from the investor side, because it makes, the due diligence in some senses has been done to get these grants. Super competitive. For the third round that we did in order to unlock the money, we had to do an interview, and there was a panel of about 15 people on it.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, it's a really intense time, because it's all judged on that final half an hour interview as well. So there's a lot that goes into that. So a lot of the due diligence is done when you win a big grant like that as well, which is helpful. But yeah, in terms of our investors, we're really delighted who we've managed to get on our cap table, who we've persuaded to join us on our journey. So we have Empirical Ventures, who led the round. They're a deep tech fund run by Jonathan Matlock and Ben Miles, and they've invested in a huge number of really interesting deep tech companies that are hoping to change the world in healthcare and biotechnology. Then we also have a high net worth individual that came in as well to the round. He's more of an angel investor, but he's got strong links with Rothschild and Co. and did a lot of work doing mergers and acquisitions with them for pharmaceutical companies. So again, great network and really experienced in sort of understanding how biotechs run and how they can grow to become profitable enterprises and change the world at the same time. And then we have a number of really great angel networks that join. So we have The Helm, which is a big angel network that's for female investors only. So they're based in New York, and they gather lots of different female investors to put their money together and invest in companies. So we're really grateful to have them. We didn't have that many women investors on our cap table actually before the last round. So it's really nice to now have a larger group of really committed women investors that really, really get it. And they bring a new perspective, I think, having to actually carry children themselves and understand all of the challenges that come with breastfeeding. So I'm sure you can understand, Jessica. So yeah, we're really pleased with the investors. We've got really high caliber ones on the table, as well as yourselves. And it's a really exciting time.
Amazing. Just by chance as well, I don't know if we've told you this, but James went to Cannes Lion I was going to say last summer. It's the summer just gone, but it does feel like last year. It was all that time ago. And met someone who is part of the angel group in New York who invested in you, like totally by chance. Yeah. And like someone who is not in the health space, doing very, very cool things in their own domain. And it was just one of those amazing moments where you're like, are we talking about the same company here?
Well, it was quite interesting. Yeah, she's called Sophie Tate, and I was sat on the French Riviera just having lunch with a group of people that were at the festival. Yeah, pretty casual. It's a ridiculous way to spend time that you allocate to work. Like, it is unbelievable the amount of rosé that is consumed in this week of marketing in inverted commas, and it's just an absolute disgrace, to be perfectly honest, to call that work. But anyway. So I was there doing loads of work, having some rosé in a lunch place, sat next to Sophie, and she was saying, she was just asking like, what I was up to, and I was saying like, oh, it's super exciting because we just made our first angel investment. Oh, what's the company? I told her all about the company. Oh, it sounds amazing. She looked them up and she was like, oh, interesting. So she obviously committed that to memory, because then when she heard the pitch in New York, she messaged me saying, is this the company you're talking about? Because it sounds remarkably similar. And my ears pricked up immediately. And she's like, I'm definitely thinking of, and I was like, yeah, that is. And she's like, cool.
Oh my gosh.
And then she was in. So I was like, yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. Was it like sharing a portfolio with another investor? Does it feel sort of like...
I have no idea what that obviously feels like, but I imagine it probably feels something like this. So that is the vibe, I guess. But no, I was just in that period of like, I will literally tell anyone that is listening at the moment about BoobyBiome, because it's like, I'm a new parent and this is really exciting, and this is health equity, and this is something that's incredibly needed.
Thank you so much. It sounds like you did the legwork for me.
Well, yeah, I was trying. But yeah, I guess for listeners, it'd be useful to actually just run through the fundamentals of the idea. And I guess what I'm interested in on the back of that is in that fundraise that Jessica was asking about, did like what was it in the idea or in the pitch that really got investors interested? I know a lot of people listening will be raising money or thinking about raising money or part of trying to do so and not being successful at the moment because it is so much more difficult. So what is the fundamental idea of BoobyBiome? And in that story, what were the bits that you think really grabbed investors so that other people can perhaps think about that in their own story?
That's a really good question. Well, to start from the beginning, at BoobyBiome, we've been going for a while now. So we set up the company back in 2019. There are 3 co-founders. So it's myself, Shauned Jones, who's been on here before, and also Taro Driscoll. So we were all doing our PhDs at UCL, and we knew we didn't want to stay in academia, but we also knew we wanted to stay in healthcare, health tech, and we were doing some reading around, what are areas of science and research which have been really overlooked or underfunded, and stumbled upon the breast-built microbiome as one of these massive points where people knew it kind of existed but hadn't really done the research needed to understand what it really means for infant health. For example, it was excluded from this huge project called the Human Microbiome Project, which was this $250 million project that set out, very similar to the Human Genome Project, to go and sample lots of different humans and see what is it that lives on skin, or in the eye or in stool. But they just didn't look at breast milk, which was a big oversight. And so,
Why did they discount breast milk? Do you know?
I wish I did. I don't know. It would have been, our lives would have been a lot easier in some ways if they had looked at breast milk, because they would have released more information about how you actually extract DNA from breast milk. And there's all these technical things that's really tricky. So maybe because it's such a hard medium to work with, and if it wasn't worth the effort, I really don't know. It does seem a bit bizarre. I guess it's also not a constant microbiome in the sense that is, it's temporary. Only women that are breastfeeding will have one, I think. No, actually, I'm not sure if anyone's tried to sample in science. It's quite hard, isn't it? But yeah, it's just been overlooked a lot. And I think it was a real shame, because the research that had been done on it showed that about 40% of the microbes which enter your gut do seem to be related, or the same species that people are finding in breast milk. So there was a big question over, okay, that's a lot of bacteria which contribute to this first gut ecosystem. But what are they? I mean, people didn't know to the sort of depth of exactly what was the strain or the subspecies. They sort of knew broadly the sort of genus level. So for those that are listening, and I'm not sure about what I mean by genus, I mean, when you say Homo sapiens, the Homo is the genus bit and the sapiens is the species. So we kind of knew what the genus was, but no deeper. And so we looked at ourselves and we were like, right, well, we actually have probably quite a good skill set here to try and understand this population better. So I'm a microbiologist. My background is, I was actually doing my PhD on algae, but I spent a lot of time collecting microbial samples and seeing what grew and, working with DNA. Whereas Shauned was very much came from a sort of testing pipeline area. She knew how to grow human cells in the lab, and we needed to grow human gut epithelial cells to then test any bacteria that I collect on these human cells to see how do they respond. And then Tara came in very much from the sort of bioinformatics angle. Her PhD was working a lot on, she was a neuroscientist, but she had many huge data sets that she had to develop tools to sort of get the data out from. And so with microbiology and microbiome science, you produce huge amounts of data because you also need to sequence. In a nutshell, we'd collect samples. I would try and culture from them and collect the bacteria. Tara would extract the DNA and then send it off to be sequenced, and then she'd read it, and that would tell us what the microbiome composition was. We can't culture everything, so I would miss lots of things in my part because it's really difficult to culture some bacteria, but we'd see what was there just from the database. And then Shauned would then pick up the strains that looked interesting, and they're propping up a lot in Tara's database, and also we had them in the lab and should start testing them on the gut cell model. And using that method, we sort of set up is a discovery platform, essentially, where we've managed to understand exactly what lives in the breast milk microbiome, but also build a biobank of strains, which we can then test. And then from that, develop products that, we hope could help solve the sort of infant gut microbiome crisis, which is going on at the moment. And I think that was a big thing of, we don't really know what we're going to discover as part of this process. But already from doing this, we're in the development of 2 products with other ones that we can that we can uncover. And the first product that we're taking to market, interestingly, isn't what we first thought we would take to market when we set out to embark on our mission of BoobyBiome, of understanding the microbiome. I realized, because it was very frustrating for me, is trying to culture these bacteria that they wouldn't grow. A lot of them, they should grow, because we knew they were there, and once a few people have cultivated closely related species and they have grown them in the lab, but I could not isolate them myself from the breast milk samples. But we knew they were there because of Tara's database. So that's why it was really important to extract the DNA and read it, because that could tell us what bacteria are actually there. And it was super frustrating and a bit scary, because actually our first little bit of investment was these 2 angel investors that came in, and they put in £50,000. It was enough to get a little database going. And we convinced them. I said, I can definitely culture and make this big biobank. It'll be really easy. Convince them, and doubt starts to creep in, and you get a bit like, oh no, I just parted these lovely men away from their money. And we can't actually do what we've said we can, and felt very guilty about that. But in the end, something dawns on us. Doing lots of research, we realised that oxygen, of course, these microbes are adapted to low oxygen environment. They're adapted to the mammary gland, low oxygen environment, and the infant gut, there's basically zero oxygen. And so we developed a research tool that we could then take to the donor's home. So when she would express milk for us, we could put this in place, and it would essentially absorb all the oxygen in the bottle and from the milk. And then we could then take that, her milk sample with our device sitting on the neck of the bottle. It's like a bung, which we'd take back to the lab, and then we'd have a go at culturing. And suddenly, honestly, it was almost like an overnight thing. We could culture so many more bacteria. It turns out the oxygen and the transportation and the aeration of the expression was just knocking out a lot of them, and we could suddenly massively build our biobank. Which, again, this just shows the importance of, when you research something, you don't always necessarily know where it's going to go, especially if it's an under-researched area. It sort of made us sort of sit up and think, oh, that is sort of interesting. Does that mean that mothers, that expressing their breast milk, leaving it in the fridge, maybe aren't delivering as intact a breast milk microbiome as they would be if their baby was directly latched on at the breast? And again, no one had really asked that question before. There'd been a few studies where people had looked at, what is the difference between breast milk for babies' health outcomes if they're fed express milk and directly fed, but very few. So one of them was called the Child Cohort Study. It was a study run by a Canadian research group where they enlisted about 3,000 infants, and they followed. It was an observational study. Almost all microbiome studies are observational, which is why it's so difficult to get concrete conclusions from it. But they examined this big cohort of infants. They're now 5 years old, and there's really interesting health impacts. So health things you can look at, for example, asthma prevalence. You can measure at age of 5 really accurately. And they had a little subset of infants where they did ask mums, did you feed express milk or exclusively expressed, or exclusively from the breast? And they did show that actually, babies that were fed express breast milk were slightly more likely to develop asthma than ones that were fed directly from the breast. And the only difference is just they're fed express breast milk. And the authors in this study had no idea why this was. But that sort of got our backs up, because it's really, I think, one of the strongest links to poor gut microbiome development in infancy is developing asthma. And we were just like, this is so striking to us. Obviously, it's still observational evidence and more work needs to be done, but we then did a bit more digging and found another paper which showed that babies slightly more likely to develop obesity if they're fed express breast milk. So this isn't formula. This isn't even talking. Formula's got its whole other problems, but this is just pure breast milk. And also, there's another study which showed that they're slightly more likely to develop ear infections. I'm not sure how related that is to the microbiome, to be honest, but it's just so interesting how hardly anyone studied it. But these studies were fairly big cohort numbers, so I think that we may be onto something. But
and let me just say, breastfeeding is one thing, right? And breastfeeding is not easy for anyone, even if it is straightforward for you. But expressing is a whole other ballgame. That is a labor of love, and frankly, talking from personal experience, I really don't enjoy it, but I do it because it means that it makes the life of our family much easier. And then to hear something like that, where you think you're doing the right thing by your child, which by the way, you are, everyone's doing their best. To know that there are potentially these downstream consequences, and you're just trying to do the right thing, and you're like putting yourself through this like arduous experience of having this like vacuum cleaner on your boob to extract milk, knowing that like it's not, you know, that gold standard, like gold top milk that you would expect it to be. It's just a bit like, it's frustrating, isn't it? And as I say, we're always doing our best for our children, and we, you know, that is, you know, relatively new research and new data that most people wouldn't have been aware of. I certainly wasn't aware of until you just shared that. But you kind of feel like you can't do wrong by doing right sometimes. And so the idea that, you know, I can express and my family can experience the benefits of that, and my baby's health won't be, you know, not that it's being put at risk, but you know what I mean? There's less likely to be downstream impacts by, you know, this product that is going to protect the bacteria that's in the breast milk. Just sounds, it's almost like, oh, it's like one thing I don't need to worry about. Not that I knew to worry about it before, but it's just reassuring, I think, and it makes you feel like you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, I want to absolutely caveat with express breast milk is still a lot. You're doing such a good job being able to express breast milk and feed it to your infant. I mean, it's still, I would argue, a lot better than formula milk. It's still got all of these more tailored nutrients that your baby needs. It's still completely worth doing. But if you want to store your breast milk for any sort of time longer than a couple of hours, it's definitely worth removing oxygen from it, from our research, which we're planning on publishing shortly. I've realised, James, I didn't actually answer your original question, which is what is it that draws the investors in? And I think it's not necessarily that product, which I think is, I do believe we're going to set a new standard in breast milk storage with what we've discussed.
And that product, by the way, is to anaerobically store breast milk then to retain the quality
Yes,
of the
thank you. Yes. Very, a very unconcise way of me getting there. But yes, that's exactly what you said. I don't think they're investing necessarily because of that particular product, for example, or our next product, which is actually then using the biobank that we've developed now that we could actually culture bacteria from it. And make supplements for infants. I think it's the fact that we've got all this research and we've got such a big pipeline now of other avenues that we can take it and other findings that we can uncover. And it's a sort of big vision of, you know, this is, we're not just like a one trick pony, this is our one product and this is all we got. We're doing something that no one else has done. It's been really hard to collect this data. We've already learned so much from in my opinion, quite little data we've got. I mean, I want to get more.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, money is a big problem and also the time of collecting milk. But I mean, even from this, you know, this small data set that we've built, we've managed to learn so many things. And I think that's what really entices investors. They realize that, yeah, do you know what? This company's going somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, that's exactly the reason that it really made me stand up and notice. I think it was at the perfect time for us because we were about to be new parents and we were having these conversations, and so we were so attuned to this stuff anyway. And you're right, those benefits were definitely there. So as someone who would have bought the products, like yes, immediately, but actually to invest in the company, it was then like, hold on a minute. It reminds me, actually, this is going to age me, but back in the day, there was this thing called Google whacking, where like if you managed to find a 2-word combination that when you Googled it had only one website, it was called a Google whack, and you could submit it to this website. And once it was on the website, there was obviously 2 results, so it was no longer a Google whack. So my point is, it reminds me of like when you ask a question for which, when you hit enter, there are no answers. That is an incredibly unique thing, particularly where it is something that affects everyone that has ever been born. So every human, this is a relevant question for them. What is the value of the breast milk microbiome? Question mark. What does it constitute of? And how can we put and democratize the benefits of that to everyone? That is such a fundamental question to human health that it's kind of like a Google whack when you're like, hold on a minute, that doesn't have any answers. So that's what, from assuming the value and downstream value of everything possible from those that are researching that, 100% agree with you. Like that's exactly where it was like, hold on a minute, this is a huge opportunity, like a huge opportunity. So I'm not surprised that that's the answer.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate it. It's lovely. It's lovely to hear when people really see your vision and are so aligned.
So we've talked obviously about the product for express breast milk, but what else have you got in store? What else is on the horizon now you've kind of locked in this funding and it's full steam ahead?
It's full steam ahead. So we're obviously continuing our research. Actually, yesterday I was visiting Chester Milk Bank, which is one of the UK's largest milk banks, where they collect lots of breast milk from mothers all across the northwest region, and they're really keen to collaborate and send us more. We can work together, and I can sample from that region, because we've sadly had been restricted to sampling around London, which at least is quite a multicultural city, and we've had quite a diverse pool of donors, but it'd be really good to sample a bit further afield. So we're still continuing our research. Like I say, I really want to expand our data set. I think there's so much more to learn. So that's happening. So we're trying to set up research projects with them. And then we have our second product, which is also in development. At the moment, it's actually with University of Reading. So they've got this brilliant artificial gut system, which has been, they sort of validated it across 25 years, where, it was actually quite a big challenge. You inoculate it with infant stool samples, and then you put the bacteria in and you see how do the bacteria respond that we're putting in, but we've, our happy little consortia. How does it respond with the bacteria which are maybe in a formula-fed infant gut and might not be the most beneficial for that infant? Can the bacteria we inoculate take over and, make that breast milk, make that better microbiome? Better is quite a hard one. Make that more balanced microbiome that's going to produce the sort of short-chain fatty acids or the metabolites, which would then educate the immune system, learn tolerance and things like that. So a big challenge. The challenge with this, though, is finding the infants that you can, because you need the baby, you need the baby to be just formula, only formula fed. You need the baby to be near Reading. The baby's got to poo on demand, because the poo's got to be really fresh. So you've got to put the poo in the model you've got a 2-hour window. So it's surprisingly difficult and babies don't poo when you tell them to poo. Some babies poo all the time.
They do not.
No.
Go a day suddenly or 2 days without pooing, and you're like, what's going on? So the poor research team at University of Reading have had to enlist all these mother baby sort of nearby the university, and sort of wait around there with a sort of waterproof nappy, like, which one's going to go? Which one's going to go? The research itself is pretty straightforward. You knock the model, put the bacteria and read the outputs, but it's the setup which has been super challenging.
Starting to see some more practical reasons why this research has not yet happened as well.
I didn't mention actually that we also, as well as breast milk, we also collect infant stool samples, because it's super interesting. So it's not the most glamorous work that we've necessarily embarked on. Getting breast milk is fine; it's lovely, it's nice milk and it's nice colour and all of that. Scraping the nappies to get enough. Sometimes not quite enough poo, and you want to get enough so that you can extract it. Less glamorous.
It's one of those, like, this is the reality of entrepreneurship type moments, isn't it? Like the glamorous world of entrepreneurship, and you're scraping.
I'm the CEO.
Waterproof nappy. I'm the CEO.
Love my job. CEO life.
Joke's on them though, because you do, and you are CEO. And that is what a modern CEO does.
Literally getting your hands dirty.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
But with this, so we're hoping that the output from the artificial gut model, we're actually testing 5 different consortia of bacteria which score the highest on our big scoring matrix of different tests we've done. We're testing 5 in parallel with lots of repeats in these different gut models. And then from that, we're going to have a winning 2, which you then take forward to another slightly more complicated gut model, which is a bit longer to set up. And we're going to play those 2 out against each other. And then from that, we'll have our winner, which we'll then take forward to do clinical trials on. And then once we've got that, well, a food intervention trial, I should say, we won't be initially going after a health claim for that first one. This would be an initial one just to see that our strains are tolerated with babies. They should be. They're all under the generally recognised as safe list or qualified presumption of safe list in the EU. But we just want to check that they're well tolerated. All of them that we've put in there of this consortia are actually doing what we think they should be doing, or not dying out immediately, because if they are, there's no point in having it. And there'll be a few outcomes we'll be interested to look at. For example, can we make firmer stools, or can we reduce crying instances, or what happens with number of hospital visits? Did it go down when we fed the babies in this little trial, our consortia? And once we've got all that data, we then plan to take this to market. We're really keen on getting the science right and really understanding the research before we do this. Technically, we could take this to market now. Food supplements and probiotics are very poorly regulated. And I think that's why there's so little efficacious probiotics out there that actually seem to do anything. They've just not been tested that rigorously. So we plan to differ in that regard and have a supplement. It's a symbiotic, really, because it contains a live probiotic bacteria, but it will also contain some of the sugars that you find in breast milk, called human milk oligosaccharides, which is specifically for feeding these bacteria. We aim to have that ready to go, and the whole point of this product is just to try and get a baby's gut as close as possible to if they've been born vaginally and with fed breast milk. So to us, that's the gold standard of a healthy infant gut. Ideally, no antibiotics, haven't been exposed to antibiotics, naturally born, we're breastfed, and a lot of babies unfortunately don't have that composition for a whole huge number of reasons. Of course, you've got to give your kid antibiotics if it's sick and there's an infection. You have to. Same if you're a C-section, you should take antibiotics. But there's a reason why the mortality rate of mothers and mothers giving birth is so low, because of these amazing advances we've made in healthcare. But of course, that does have an impact on the microbiome. So we really want to give this product. We think it'll be really tailored to babies that either don't get any breast milk, or, like I say, were born by C-section, or have taken antibiotics. And then from that, later on, we do plan to get a bit more personalized with our products. So, for example, there's a particular type of antibiotic that mothers are given. There might be, there's some bacteria which seem to be lacking when they take that antibiotic. So we could give this product to the mother and help get up, increase the abundance of the bacteria that she's lacking because of that probiotic. So that when she breastfeeds her baby, it's easier for them to get that bacterium. And there's other things we're interested in down the line as well. So for preterm infants as well, they have very immature guts that are developed because they're born too early, sadly. And there's quite a lot of evidence suggesting that if you give these infants really healthy, beneficial bacteria straight off the bat, they're far less likely to develop some very serious diseases. So other more sort of personalized, tailored products also, as we build up our data set and we can get a better understanding of what should come when and the right timing, is our sort of goal for after these 2 products are there. So a lot of ambition, quite a lot going on.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, Lydia, just how much opportunity there is downstream. Opportunity is maybe the wrong word. It doesn't seem like grand enough. Like how much learning there is, how much objective truth there is that we haven't actually discovered yet, but is right there before us on all of these things, right? I think that's really interesting to me, that this is a frontier of medicine. I think the microbiome broadly is a frontier of medicine at the moment, because I don't think anyone knows much about any microbiome. Like we're all learning so much about the adult human microbiome in the gut. Like we just don't know huge amounts about that, which is why there's so many claims online about things improving microbiome and guaranteed to do this, that, and the other, that I think it's a strange thing to be doing that. I know everyone's trying to help, I guess, by doing that, but we are all learning so unbelievably quickly. To then apply that to the breast milk microbiome, the infant gut microbiome, to then be measuring that as it comes out through stool as well, and to start plotting these differences and how that affects health, to then go a step further to personalize as well downstream. That's where all of a sudden you're now seeing, like, hold on a moment, there is so much downstream of this, like so much downstream of this. And that's where, I call it opportunity, but I don't know what the right word is. There's just a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of good things that will come down from there. So I honestly think it is so unbelievably exciting. And as Jess said at the start, thanks for letting us be part of it. Like I think it's hugely important. It's really difficult for podcasts when like investors bring on their people that they've invested in and talk about things, and it's all amazing. But I really do think this is. I think it's so important for human health. And like you said, to give every baby on earth the ability to have all the good things about breast milk, because not all families are able to breastfeed for many of the reasons you said, and for many, many more globally. Not all families are able to breastfeed, and there's a huge health equity piece here, huge health equity piece, a huge global health piece. That's why, for us anyway, I think it's yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun ride. It's gonna be a fun ride, definitely.
Thank you.
So Lydia, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Jessica's had to shoot, so I'll say goodbye, and goodbye on her behalf. But yeah, for people that want to learn more about BoobyBiome, and in fact, if there's anyone specifically that you want to call out here that you want to get in touch with, or that would be useful for you at this point, feel free. But how would someone get in touch with you?
Oh, please, you can contact us via our website, www.boobybiome.com, or also our email address, info@boobybiome. We're all on LinkedIn as well and Instagram, so we keep a big eye on those channels. We're always looking to find more donors to donate to our studies so we can learn more insights. So if anyone's breastfeeding at the moment, like I say, we are restricted to the London area because that's our labs are in. We're actually in the Institute of Child Health, which is the research arm of Great Ormond Street Hospital. So we're amongst all these academics who are always giving us advice on different things, which is brilliant. So we are very central with King's Cross. So within an hour of King's Cross, we'd be very happy to come and organise a collection and also share with you the results of what we found in your breast milk if you're interested.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure, Lydia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute honour.